Morning. Let's call to order the December MTA Board Meeting. Safety announcement?
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the
Morning.
MTA.
Morning.
Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Jonathan, are you moderating public comment?
It's me this morning.
Okay. Good morning. Please, let's hear from the members of the public.
Good morning and welcome to the MTA Board Meeting's public comment session. We have 34 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. In the event that we exceed 60 minutes of public comment, we will transition to a separate live recording session. Recorded comments will be distributed to the MTA board and posted to our board meeting webpage and YouTube channel. I would also like to remind our speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we will limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Deborah Greif, followed by Matt McMillan.
Good morning, everyone. I wish everyone happy holidays. You see, I made my hair red for Christmas. But I came, something I'm really happy about, but I'm also asked by my counterparts in the Bronx. We're the Bronx Developmental Disability Council, as well as the Bronx Family Support Advisory Council. The chair is Tina Vale from the advisory, and what's her name again? Joanne. Thank you, Joanne. Also, we are all in favor of the pen access. It will make life a lot easier for all of us. So we want you to know that you have support from the Bronx as well as Brooklyn. My advisory council is looking forward to that. Because yes, even though we live in Brooklyn, we do go up north. So we're looking forward to making sure the pen access is working, as well as that it's truly accessible, and also try to add some more ramps if possible, because ramps don't break as fast as a elevator, and it's easier to get on and off because unfortunately certain people think, and even if they're upset with me, the elevators for all is not fair because person who uses a mobility device needs to get on the elevators because I can't lift this upstairs. That's why I use the walker. So that's why we keep asking also for ramps when it's possible. Again, I wish everybody a happy and healthy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Matt McMillan, followed by Jack Nierenberg.
Good morning. I'm Matthew McMillan. I'm an organizer for TW Local 100. Local 100 represents thousands of members who operate and maintain New York City Transit subway cars. Over the course of this year, I've joined SMART and Jobs to Move America at these board meetings, and we've shared the same message each time. The issue: a survey of workers at a major MTA vendor, Kawasaki Railcar, shows that surveyed workers reported being paid less than industry average and treated unfairly based on race, gender, and other protected categories. This is in spite of job and wage commitments Kawasaki made in its U.S. employment plan, included in its $4.5 billion R211 contract. The solution: to improve transparency and accountability, we are asking the MTA to release Kawasaki's US EP commitments. Also, the MTA should include the federally approved USEP in its upcoming railcar purchases to ensure future railcar vendors perform at a higher standard. Lastly, the MTA should encourage Kawasaki to meet with concerned stakeholders to discuss a community benefits agreement. Now, in December last year, I first joined our partners in making these requests of the MTA. In July of this year, the president of Local 100 and other city and state labor leaders sent a letter to the board with the same message. In September, our president and members rallied outside and testified in front of the board about the experiences of Kawasaki workers described in JMA's report, co-authored with Cornell University. And last month, I attended the board meeting with the same partners to express our disappointment that the MTA awarded a $1.5 billion non-competitive subway contract to Kawasaki. We don't want to have to keep coming back here next year, so we do call on you again to meet with us and concerned stakeholders to discuss these requests. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Jack Nierenberg, followed by Joseph Morales.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jack Nierenberg, Vice President of Passengers United. We are now just about 6 months in to the Queens Bus Network redesign, and we're already seeing major service gaps, particularly on the Q82 and many other bus routes in many of the outlying areas where we're only seeing maybe 3 or 4 buses on the route, and they're all going in the same direction. So these service needs to be adjusted accordingly on many of these routes. Secondly, and I know this is a DOT issue, but I want to bring this to your attention, on Queens Boulevard, there's a bike lane that's being implemented on Queens Boulevard, and they've been installing these islands for the bus stops, and already we've been seeing senior citizens tripping and actually being hit by bicyclists on trying to cross over to the bus stops because there are no signals to get from the sidewalk to the island where the bus stop is. Again, that's a DOT issue, but I wanted to bring that up to you. And lastly, for the last 3 months, I've been working on an initiative to collect the bus stop accessibility data, given the multitude of bus stops that were removed in the Queens Bus Network redesign, to do the work that the planning team didn't do and actually conduct existing condition studies of each of the stops that were eliminated. We now have hundreds of stops assessed under my supervision, and we're going to be analyzing these to determine stops to be restored with the greatest needs. So you're all going to be receiving a report very shortly on that. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Joseph Morales, followed by Todd Napolitano.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Joseph Morales. I'm a sophomore at Manhattan University in the Bronx. I'm also as a civil engineering major, I'm also a Bronx resident. The MTA should ensure that the new buses received as part of the Nova Bus procurement go to depots whose routes serve the highest number of senior citizens and have the highest rates of fine particulate matter. Fine particulate matter is one of the primary air pollutants vehicles release that leads to higher rates of asthma and other illnesses in communities. In addition, the low-floor nature of these buses is essential for assuring that seniors can enter and exit buses safely and with dignity. It is also important to ensure, if possible, that newly ACE-enabled buses go to routes with higher rates of double parking and/or bus lanes to ensure we get the most out of the bus's ACE capability. Also, when creating final budgets for bridges and tunnels, we should include estimated toll revenues that will occur from toll increases. Since toll evasion is relatively low compared to, New York City Transit, and facility use also does not fluctuate as often as subway and bus ridership does, having a clear sense of how much money we have will help us to make better plans for the operations of bridges and tunnel facilities and proactively decide how surplus revenues could support New York City Transit. However, the MTA should have contingencies in place for how much casino revenue they will receive if plans for the 3 new casinos in New York City get delayed or canceled. This is particularly important given the organized and intense community opposition to the Bally's Bronx and Metropolitan Park casinos. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Todd Napolitano, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, I must once again emphasize the critical importance of maintaining road dispatchers at their current field posts rather than reassigning them to the bus command center. Removing dispatchers from their field strips them from the very environment where their presence is most impactful, on the ground, directly supporting operations and resolving issues in real time. It is clear this reassignment is being driven primarily by the need to fill empty councils at the BCC. While I do not oppose the strengthening of the bus command center, this objective should be achieved by hiring additional dispatchers to complement those already in the field, not by eliminating road dispatchers. To do so is an error in judgment and a misstep in management at the highest level. I urge you, Mr. Chairman, to ask your team what is Plan B if this decision fails. Once the dispatchers are removed from the road post and reassigned to the bus command center, the move cannot be reversed for 1 year. If this experiment proves to be a disaster, we will be locked in until 2027. At that time, the only recourse will be to pay dispatchers overtime to cover the very posts that were vacated. This will lead to costly and ineffective solutions and undermine the original intent. This is not simply a matter of staffing and logistics. This is a matter of operational effectiveness, physical responsibility, and public trust. Road dispatchers are the backbone of field operations, and weakening their presence jeopardizes the reliability of on-time performance and customer satisfaction. Mr. Chairman, once again, I kindly request for you to ask your team what is Plan B if this fails. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Jesse Figueroa.
Good morning, Jano, Paige, Catalina, and the rest of the board members. Jason Anthony, the transit girl, this time in Staten Island, on my way to Broadway. For the past, let's say, 10 to 20 minutes, I've been waiting for the S40 to take the ferry to go over there. But apparently, according to the MTA app, it's supposed to arrive a bus right now, but it's not here. My concern is, where's the ATU Local 726 leadership when we need them? Why is it that every time the Amazon employees like myself are stranded, and especially when days like this are very cold, and especially when let's say when the retro car days are over and the Omni is literally being rolled out, where she variation rates going through the roof. And ending 2025, let's do some fact checking for some folks. Regarding the Kawasaki, let's say, fiasco, why not investigate what's been going on with Bovard Gear? And why hasn't the National Transportation Safety Board brought in regarding the 2 latest incidents? Because this is a safety hazard. So that's all I have to say for this month. I'll see you guys in a little bit.
The next speaker is Jesse Figueroa, followed by Lauren Shandoval.
Good morning, everybody. Jesse Figueroa here, accessibility, transportation advocate, and U.S. Army veteran, speaking on behalf of my veteran services organizations and everybody. As we enter the holiday season, I extend warm wishes of peace and safety to all New Yorkers who depend on our transit system. The MTA is more than infrastructure. It is the bridge that connects families, workers, and communities across our state. I respectfully urge the MTA to continue prioritizing accessibility and reliability so that every rider, veterans, seniors, parents, and students alike can travel with dignity. Accessibility is inclusion, and inclusion reflects the true spirit of the season, ensuring no one is left behind. On behalf of the veterans community and our community at large, I thank you for your service to the public and wish you and your families a joyful holiday and hopeful New Year. Happy Hanukkah and happy Kwanzaa.
The next speaker is Lauren Shandovel, followed by Jean Ryan.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Shandovel. I'm a senior researcher at Jobs to Move America, a nonprofit that works to ensure public dollars are spent creating good jobs and strengthening local economies. At the board meeting last month, I testified again about poor working conditions at Kawasaki facilities in New York and Nebraska, where MTA subway cars are manufactured. Over the past year, my organization conducted a survey of 180 Kawasaki workers who described a culture marked by poor management, disrespect, lack of transparency, and an overall emphasis on production speed over employee well-being. These workers noted faulty equipment, heat and poor ventilation, and operating machinery without up-to-date certification. One worker reported climbing onto the roof of a rail car that was suspended 20 feet in the air without a harness at the request of his supervisors. Another worker we interviewed lost part of her finger when a railcar window fell on her hand. The first thing she asked when she was taken to the first aid room was, "Am I going to lose my job?" And she was only sent to the hospital after a paramedic insisted it was necessary. Yet another worker with injuries to his knee, ankle, feet, and back had to work without his cane for a year and a half because he was allegedly told it impeded productivity requirements. He was also scolded for taking too much time in the bathroom. Mind you, he had difficulty walking, for leaving his station to grab water on a 100-degree day, and for sitting down at his station. To address these issues with your vendor, we're asking the MTA to encourage Kawasaki to negotiate a community benefits agreement with local groups in New York and Nebraska who demand dignified local jobs with family-sustaining wages. Moreover, to ensure future vendors treat their workers fairly, we ask that you include the U.S. employment plan in your upcoming railcar purchases. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Jean Ryan, followed by Phil Valenti.
I'm Jean Ryan, President of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York, DIA for short. I am continuing on my year of testifying about mobility, disability access on express buses. Express buses go from the outer boroughs to Manhattan and back again. Because drivers often do not know how to move the seats or use the lift, it does not pay for me to take the bus into Manhattan. I will miss what I am going to Manhattan for because it takes so long or the drivers tell me to take the next bus. If I do try to get on, some of the passengers are hostile and mad and tell me I should take Express Ride or a cab. Instead of thinking that the drivers should be trained better, they blame me. If a driver knows what to do and the seats will move and the lift works, it only takes 5 minutes from start to finish for me to get on the bus. That's not a big deal. It can take longer than that for a group of people to walk into the bus. Drivers need more training. Buses should be maintained better. Instruction stickers should be on every bus, not just some. Lastly, fill-in drivers cause the most inaccessibility because they are untrained or poorly trained. It's up to the MTA to figure out how to solve these problems so wheelchair users and other people with mobility disabilities can get a ride just like everyone else. I really think that getting a low-floor ramp express bus would solve many of the problems. Equal access, not sometime access, is the law. And I just want to quickly mention that there are evacuation chairs up here, or maybe one chair, I don't know. But are people trained who are up here to use the evacuation chairs in an emergency? Because I would like
Please
to know
conclude your
that.
remarks.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Phil Valenti, followed by Chris Greif.
Philip Valenti, President of TWU Local 106, Transit Supervised Organization. Mr. Lieber, you have a crisis in the Department of Buses. I don't know if you know it. The bus radio system right now is down and out of service. It went down on Friday for an hour, then 4 hours, went down on Monday, was down for 44 hours. The bus radio system is down, the GPS system is down, It's an absolute disaster. At the same time, I got the Department of Buses telling me they're going to take 26 dispatchers off the street come January and put more of them in the bus command center, which will only overwhelm the system even more. I've been telling the Department of Buses for over a year now, there's a problem at the bus command center. The radio system is not operating properly. Now, I mean, the timing couldn't be any crazier than this. I'm going to arbitration at 11 o'clock this morning, fighting these changes they're trying to make. I'm fighting it based on my belief and what I know. The changes the transit authority intends to make is dangerous to the public and dangerous to the bus operators. And I'm asking you, Mr. Chairman, to intervene. The people in the Department of Buses, whoever else, they don't want to hear it. They think I'm full of it. There's a crisis. Right now, the system is not working. Why would we take more people, supervised off the street, as Todd explained, and stick them in the bus command center to work in a location with an operating system that's not working properly? It's the opposite of everything you think you would want to do. If you want to put people up there, put more people up there, but hire people and put them on the road. Don't strip the road to try to go by this. And one last thing, right? I don't think you guys realize this. What's happening to the Department of Buses, you guys pissed off people so badly. We've created the MTA Coalition from the UTLO, Local 100, Local 106, you got the Triple SA, all the ATUs. We formed a coalition.
Please conclude
because
your
we're all
remarks.
pissed off about how we're being treated, Department of Buses. And 2026 is going to come to a head. I'm telling you right now.
Thank you for your remarks. The next speaker is Chris Greif, followed by Miriam Fisher.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christopher D. Greif. Happy holidays to all. As I will say this, as I am here also to support the PAN access, as we are making sure that Metro North will have their trains running at the station. So as Metro North knows, I will be supporting this with the Bronx Advisory Council, the DD Council, Joanne Siegel, who's the chair, and Tina Vale. And together, other advocates, I hope, will continue advocating because we want the trains to run so we can get access and get somewhere faster and quicker and even make it easy to connect to the buses. Also, I'm going to add, on the accessibility, I wanted to thank the whole MTA because looking at stations, looking at not just elevators and ramps, we're seeing lighting, braille, not just on trains and buses, but the bridges. So thank you, Bridge and Tunnels. Also, and Accessoride. We're seeing a lot of things getting accomplished. You know, for this years I've been here, things have changed, and we're going to continue changing and work together as one. We might agree and disagree, but our hearts and souls will always work together as one. So let us continue advocating and let the elected officials from state and federal hear this. Work with accessibility, work for seniors and people with disability, because we work together, but always remember, disability and seniors are here to work together. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, and everyone have a great day. And thank you, NYP and MTA Police, for the holiday trains on the subways, being there. Thank you.
The next speaker is Miriam Fisher, followed by Andy Pollock.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good morning. The first thing is something that just happened to me. I lost my Omni card. I have to go in person to pick up a new one. It's very difficult. There are not that many service centers. They're scattered all over, and all the information is in the computer. Why can't they just send me a new one? They have all of the information. That makes it very hard. To the MTA, please sign the elevator maintenance case. It's been going on for 8 years. Announcements of elevator outage could be on, some people don't hear it, don't have cell phones, they get stranded. Announcements of elevator outages on the loudspeakers on the platform or the digital displays of the platform that show the next train. People get stranded and don't have other options. The bus stops, I applaud the announcement of the chair of the DOT that all bus stops will eventually have seats. Human need. We need seats on a lot of the subway platforms, which have eliminated them because that's where the homeless congregate, and they're not making it easier for people, for everybody. We also, regarding the bus stops, need shelters from the weather, from the snow, the rain, and seniors, pregnant women, not just all need shelters and seats, not just lonely poles that say bus stop here. Thank
Please
you for
conclude.
listening.
Thank you. The next speaker is Andy Pollock, followed by Alex Lacroix.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is Andy Pollock speaking for Passengers United. So a couple things we're going to discuss before the end of 2025. First things first, given the rollout of Omni, we need to have more Omni machines made available in subway stations that are not accessible at the moment. That's going to be a priority once we fully transition to Omni beginning 2 weeks from tomorrow. Now, other things we're going to discuss, what happened on the 3 train was completely unacceptable. Hate has no place in our transit system, and that incident needs to be condoned given Hanukkah is currently happening. And another thing that I want to basically discuss very quickly here, gentleman was discussing the radio issues with the bus command center. That needs to be fixed ASAP because that is a very dangerous safety hazard. And one more thing I'm going to say before I conclude my remarks. A lot of the bus stops were not properly salted in Queens as a result of the snowstorm that we had last weekend. I've been noticing it a lot on Union Turnpike in Glen Oaks. Our president and COO, Charlton DeSouza, has been noticing it in Sunnyside, on Queens Boulevard near Bliss Avenue, with the Q32 and the Q6. And next time when we have a big snowstorm, we need to have proper communication with the DOT, making sure that all bus stops are properly salted and properly shoveled, because the MTA is one lawsuit away from somebody being seriously injured, all just because of misneglect. With that, thank you for letting me speak. Have a happy holiday, and I will speak to you all again in 2026.
Thank you for your remarks. The next speaker is Alex Lacroix, followed by David Kupferberg.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Lacroix. I'm a resident of New York City since 2010. As you can hear, I have an accent from France originally. So thank you again for allowing me to speak here. I just wanted to follow up on what the person just mentioned about safety. Yesterday, I took the L train and wanted to connect to the NQRW, and somebody was struck by the train where there was a police and we couldn't take the Uptown subway. I've been telling a lot of people at the MTA to install platform doors. It's on the main, I feel it's dangerous when I walk personally on that platform, the NQRW. It's so narrow that I feel like simple things like platform doors, like every other subway system has, will be, great for the system. I also think we should have more automation here in New York City. I've been to Paris subway, Tokyo subway, Seoul subway, and many other subways in the world, and they have automation. I take the L train every day, and that train is getting more and more packed, and we don't have enough train. And I know that the governor has a bill to sign by the end of the year to make it a one, driver per train. And I would hope she would do that so we can have, automation. I hope the MTA will keep installing the CBTC so we can have more trains. And also to make, to have more escalators in our stations. I don't think the elevators they're good, but I don't think they're fast enough. So I would love that. And lastly, I don't even know if that's in the works, but we don't have direct trains to JFK, LaGuardia, and any other major airports. And I just can't understand that. So hope we can also do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next speaker is David Kupferberg, followed by Mo Yane Tom.
Good morning. My name is David Kupferberg, member Passengers United. I noticed that there are fewer Omni machines in the stations compared to the amount of MetroCard vending machines that were installed. For example, at the 33rd Street Rawson Street station, there were two MVMs. Now there is only one Omni machine. At the same for Court Square's entrance at the northeast corner of 44th Drive and 23rd Street. But if that one machine needs maintenance, people are out of luck until the situation is rectified. At the 42nd Street Port Authority bus terminal station for the AC and E trains, the fare control area at the southwest corner of 8th Avenue and 42nd Street had 3 standard MVMs and 2 small MVMs. Now there are only 3 Omni machines. There must be more machines installed at stations. Also at the Omni machines, there is a $2 fee to buy an Omni card. This is an injustice because of how Omni is being forced onto the riding public. The fee should be waived until at least March 2026 to allow a smoother transition. And an Omni machine is not planned to be installed in Nassau County. I blame the MTA and Nassau County equally for this injustice. There should be 2 Omni machines at the Hempstead Transit Center and 1 each at the Mineola Transit Center, Roosevelt Field Mall, and the Freeport Long Island Railroad Station. There should also be 2 Omni machines installed in Westchester County at the White Plains Transit Center. Besides, I also noticed that there are fewer LIRR ticket machines at Penn Station. It seems that the MTA may not be able to handle the influx of people using the ticket machines due to the change in fare policy. These are concerns that must be rectified for the people's sake. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mo-Yane Tom, followed by Jason Busalt.
Good morning, board members. I'm Mo-Yane Tom, the New York Policy Manager at Jobs to Move America. We work to ensure our public money creates family-sustaining jobs. For the past year, JMA has worked with labor unions, SMART, and TWU, and other advocacy groups, asking the MTA to engage with us on 2 requests. 1, to include the U.S. employment plan in its upcoming railcar purchases, and 2, encourage Kawasaki Railcar to engage with concerned stakeholders to negotiate a community benefits agreement. I have to admit, much of what I will say next will sound familiar from previous meetings. But recently, JMA co-authored a report with Cornell University that has shown concerning working conditions at Kawasaki, a company that MTA has a $4 billion subway contract with. This is the same contract that has the U.S. employment plan in it, a federally approved procurement tool that encourages bidders to be high road manufacturers. MTA has refused to publicly disclose parts of this contract, claiming that the wages and benefits of workers building their subway cars are proprietary information. By hiding this information, the MTA is keeping the public in the dark on whether or not Kawasaki is fulfilling its commitments. LA Metro and Chicago Transit Authority have used the USEP and determined that the information can be disclosed. For example, the CTA released NovaBus best and final offer for a contract that they have with them. In the company's USEP worksheet, they plan for the project to have 118 assemblers as full-time employees, paid an hourly wage of $21, with monthly fringe benefits of $1,314. Today, the board is adopting the budget discussed last month. With its operating budget balanced, the MTA can now focus on ensuring its capital plan investments contribute to jobs that provide the wages, benefits, and training needed to meet the affordability concerns expressed by everyday New Yorkers. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Jason Busalt, followed by Ian Matthews.
Good morning. My name is Jason Busalt from SMART General Committee 2, representing workers at Metro North and Long Island Railroads. With the year ending soon, I want to emphasize the year-long effort SMART, TWU, Jobs Move America, and concerned stakeholders spent asking the MTA to, 1, encourage its railcar vendor, Kawasaki, to work with community and labor groups on a community benefits agreement, and 2, include the U.S. employment plan, a federal-approved policy tool in its upcoming railcar purchases to strengthen transparency and accountability in the MTA's contracting process. In December last year, SMART members joined our partners in making these requests in front of the MTA board. One of our members shared his own experience of unsafe working conditions and union busting when he worked at Kawasaki's Yonkers factory. Another member applauded LA Metro for creating apprenticeship programs when it adopted the USEP for its rolling stock purchases. In July of this year, leaders from SMART proudly signed a letter to the MTA alongside state and local labor leaders repeating these requests. In September, SMART joined labor and community leaders at a press conference and at the board meeting to call attention to Kawasaki's concerning treatment of its U.S. railcar workers. Finally, last month, SMART attended the board meeting with our partners to voice our disappointment after MTA awarded a $1.5 billion non-competitive subway contract to Kawasaki. We are glad that MTA included the USEP in its R211 subway contract, requiring Kawasaki to make certain job commitments and regularly report their progress. That's a start. We don't want to start the new year in the same spot without any movement from the MTA on our two requests. Once again, we ask the MTA to meet with us about these issues. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Ian Matthews, followed by Alexander Kemp.
All right. Good morning. I wasn't really planning on speaking at today's board meeting, but what I witnessed this morning was completely unacceptable. So the E-train's supposed to run local in Queens overnight. Well, about that, the E-train I saw, which pulled into 7th Avenue at 5:56 a.m., was signed as going express. That was wrong. It was car 9812. I reported it. No one believed me. Really. That's disturbing. You guys should make sure all E-trains that leave World Trade between 9:30 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. are signed as local, because it's not the first time I've seen this. This happened last month, too. Also, we had another surfing incident on the B line last week. And what's more disturbing is they're surfing on top of the new B trains. That should be looked into as well. Also, I really hope soon you're going to open up the entrance at the Bedford Park Boulevard B&D station because it's still closed. You said it was going to be open last night. That didn't happen. Because now the other entrance, the Grand Concourse into a third entrance, is whenever that emergency gate opens, 10 or 20 people will go right in without paying. So that should be, so I hope that entrance can be open. And lastly, I think the Botanical Garden station's looking great. So that's the only good thing I have to say. Otherwise, that's all I have to say. Happy holidays.
The next speaker is Alexander Kemp, followed by Oliver Chesler.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
So this morning, there are bus operators operating buses and passenger service without access to working radios. In the event that an operator has an emergency, the radio is their last line and their first line of defense. We have had operators who, in an emergent situation, have been assaulted, attempted to be assaulted, physically assaulted, sexually assaulted, verbally assaulted, and in the midst of that instance, they attempted to use the radio to get the proper protection that transit mandates in that moment, that at the second you have an emergency, you press this radio and help is on the way. But what happens when you press the button and help is not on the way? You know what transit solution is? Pick up your cell phone and call us on a landline. Find a payphone that doesn't exist since 1997 and call us on the phone. Oh, but we forgot. By the way, you're not allowed to have a phone on your person, because if we see your phone in your pocket, we're taking you out of service and demoting you. So the solution that transit has is, oh, we don't have one, but if you attempt to use the solution we provide to you, you could potentially be fired. So our suggestion and our reflection on your inability to protect us is any bus that does not have an adequate working radio, in our opinion, is an unsafe bus. That is a bus that should not be in service because you cannot protect the general public and your workforce in the event that there is an emergency. They do not have the ability to contact law enforcement or anyone otherwise. And by taking dispatchers off of posts and putting them in command sets with a broken radio system, that used to be our last line of defense if the radio didn't work. That we could pull up to a corner and know there'd be a white shirt there to help us.
Thank you for your remarks.
Emergency.
Thank you. The next speaker is Oliver Chesler, followed by Anna Humphrey.
Good morning. I would like to address the issues that I noticed yesterday on the Long Island Railroad. So yesterday I was at Penn Station and it was around like 6 p.m. yesterday. And they called the Spionk train for boarding. And they said all of a sudden, oh, it's going to be an electric train and you're going to have to transfer to a diesel train at Jamaica. Now, obviously, there were some fleet equipment issues yesterday in terms of the diesels, which I noticed because the Oyster Bay train had the same issue, but it was not very well communicated to the customers. And it would be nice if there was a way that on the train time app you could tell people, oh, hey, this train is not. You're gonna have to transfer at Jamaica. It's like, I don't even know. And also that bus issue that with the radios. Come on, y'all gotta get that fixed. That's the only way of communication they have with anybody. And if, God forbid, something happens, they get into an accident, they get hurt. That's not okay. How are they supposed to get help? They can't use their phones. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Happy holidays. I'll see you in the new year.
The next speaker is Anna Humphrey, followed by LaShane Lindsay.
Good morning. My name is Anna Humphrey, and I'm the Transportation and Voting Community Organizer for the Center for Independence of the Disabled, New York, Sydney. I'm here today to speak about congestion pricing. Congestion pricing has shown early promise in New York City over the past year, evidenced by reduced traffic and improved travel times in the congestion relief zone. We also support this program because of the funding it generates for accessibility advancements throughout the system, investments that are long overdue for New Yorkers with disabilities, such as improved lighting, tactile platform edges, and platform barriers and doors. Currently, IDEP eligibility can be established through an accessory ID, a PPPD permit, or an in-person assessment. However, disability parking permits are only accepted if they were issued on or before November 15th, 2024. This creates an unnecessary burden. Individuals with valid up-to-date disability parking permits are being required to appear in person to be recertified for a program they were previously approved for through the same documentation. This policy is confusing and inefficient. Additionally, many individuals report significant difficulties scheduling an in-person assessment. We've heard from consumers who have called assessment centers in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Queens repeatedly over the course of weeks, left voicemails, and never received a response. Because phone calls are currently the only method of scheduling, this creates a serious barrier. As public transportation in New York City remains unreliable and often inaccessible for people with disabilities, this plan is an essential supplement to these shortcomings. The disability community should not be forced to jump through hoops to access these financial and mobility supports. We urge you to reassess the PPPD cutoff policy, improve scheduling access at assessment centers, and ensure that the IDEP process is straightforward and efficient for all who qualify. Thank you.
The next speaker is LaShane Lindsay, followed by Mr. X.
Good morning, everyone. My name is LaShane Lindsay, New York Organizing Manager with Jobs to Move America. Over the past year, I've had the opportunity to speak with dozens of Kawasaki workers who build subway cars New Yorkers use every day. These workers, based in Yonkers and at MTA rail yards across the city, describe low pay, unsafe practices, and an overall culture that prioritizes speed and profit over their well-being. Back in September, Jobs to Move America testified about Kawasaki's working conditions at the MTA Board Meeting, alongside our partners from TWU, SMART, Align, and the Consortium for Worker Education, and local faith leaders. We presented findings from our survey of 180 Kawasaki workers in New York and Nebraska, which we compiled into a report co-authored by Cornell University's Climate Jobs Institute. We also had a press conference outside the meeting where we called on the MTA to address these issues. As of today, the MTA has not responded to us. In fact, a month ago, the agency actually awarded Kawasaki another railcar contract worth $1.5 billion. This contract was non-competitive, meaning there was no bidding process. Kawasaki was a shoo-in for the award. What kind of message does that send to Kawasaki workers who took a huge risk sharing their experience with us if the MTA isn't even willing to ask questions about their conditions before awarding their employer another massive contract? As the largest transit network in the country and Kawasaki's #1 customer, the MTA has tremendous power to demand better jobs for the workers who build our subway cars. It is the least that we can do if we were going to continue spending billions of public dollars on these contracts. Thank you for your time. Have a happy holiday.
The next speaker is Mr. X, followed by Iris Kelly.
To the Metro-North Railroad president, On 11/18, I sent you an email letter, and so far, I haven't received a response. What's the holdup? What's the delay? What's the problem? I gave you my contact information. To the Long Island Railroad president, on 12/31 and 1/1 at all Long Island Railroad stations, leave the bathrooms open all night long like Lionel Richie and the Mary Jane Girls for the obvious reason. You know what happens in Times Square on New Year's Eve. And eventually, we'll have to run to the bathroom. So if you could leave the bathrooms open all night long, like Lionel Richie and the Mary Jane Girls on 12/31 and 1/1, it would gladly appreciate it. We don't want to have an accident before we return home. You understand what I'm saying? To the night the president, although you swap the F and M trains here in Manhattan and Queens, you're forgetting something. Train service between 5th Avenue and 50th Street will only be available on weekdays between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., which is disenfranchising. If you're not closing the tracks, either both tracks for construction, use them. Don't leave them empty. There's no excuse for that. And to Jano, you got 3 strikes going against you. A, you don't know what's going on like Marvin Gaye. B, you don't know which way it's up like Richard Pryor. And C, you can't dig it like Shaft. You proved that to me 4 years ago. You haven't changed in the last 4 years. You know that, right? And not to mention, you forced me to walk to Jacoby Hospital from 1 issue in Katona Avenue,
Thank you
which
for
is
your
equivalent to commit
remarks.
suicide.
The next speaker is Iris Kelly, followed by Lisa Daglian.
Yes, for Long Island Railroad, they need to have better connections for Brooklyn and Long Island. In the morning, it's fine. 11:12 is great. Going to Long Island is great because connection's right there. But coming home is too far to walk. It shouldn't be that way going home. It should be quick. That if you don't want to do track, at least put us on track 2. Put it close where we can get where we gotta be. They shouldn't have this. It's not right. You understand that? You know, so for Lost and Found, when you have these drop-down windows, don't do a damn thing. You need a better screen form for that to be able to find things that we really need to help look for our item that's missing. Thank you.
The next speaker is Lisa Daglian, followed by William Martin.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. I'm coming to you live from the North Pole, okay, Queens, to share some holiday cheer, even though we have no more polar bears here. Whether you celebrate Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, or Festivus, transit riders have plenty to cheer this year. Thanks to Governor Hochul, who's made us a priority, who's made investing in us a priority, her focal. There's a balanced budget to run more service, even better, and pay MTA workers who we thank for their efforts in all kinds of weather. Almost a year with congestion pricing means less traffic around, means cleaner air for all, and billions for transit abound. Bringing new train cars and buses, signals and power, and elevators too. And finally, access is coming to Met's Willets Point. Woohoo! We're not out of the woods yet, thanks to the Grinches in DC, but the laws are on our side and the cameras are staying on. They'll see. Next year holds new challenges, some old, some uncommon. We'll all learn to tap as we stroll through new gates, along with new fares and some discounts we hope you'll share. Increasing eligibility for fair fares is in sight, with a mayor and council who plainly know that it's right. Equitable access to affordable transit isn't a dream. It's what we seek daily, this PCAC team. We know you do too at the MTA. We look forward to another year of working together on behalf of the millions who ride every day. As we travel and spread holiday wishes, we must thank the workers, nearly 70,000 strong, who move the region and riders along. Before we depart with a swipe, tap, or activation, pre-boarding, sending best wishes from all at PCAC.
Please conclude your
Great
remarks.
holidays and an even better 2026.
The next speaker is William Martin, followed by Mike Hillman.
Yes, good morning, and I just want to thank you for this time and happy holidays to everyone here. Just wanted to bring it to the board's attention as far as like some express bus issues on the X28, X38, on the Diker Heights situation as far as like the month of December. There's been an influx each and every year, and more of an influx of tourists who want to come out to Diker Heights to see the Christmas lights. And I mean, this is already we already have packed buses on the X28 and X38 during rush hour for the evening rush to begin with. So now it's really packed to gills to the point that some of the folks that rely on this service can't get home. For example, this past Saturday, a 45, 60-minute trip for me normally to get from Manhattan to Brooklyn took me 3 hours because I was unable to get a bus because there's so many tourists who want to come out and they've been inspired by social media influencers to see the lights. My question is, would it be possible for the MTA to just be able to provide like shuttle service going forward in the months of December to Diker Heights, maybe like possibly opening it up in the same fashion that they do with subway construction, during the week, like during the weekend sometimes. Just maybe have the buses stop at like 12th and 86 to 14th and 86 and come back just to alleviate some of the stress for the X28 and the X8 during the evening rush. And secondly, it's basically been since the end of the summer. I usually get the X28 at Broadway and Waverly. I usually get there at 7:05. There's usually a bus 7:10, 7:15. Now, since the end of summer, there's no bus until like 7:45, 8 o'clock. And then usually they come 3 or 4 at a time. And I don't know about y'all. This time of the year, you don't want to be standing out there or freezing waiting for a bus. Thanks again. Happy holidays.
The next speaker is Mike Hillman, followed by Michael Ring.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed members of the MTA Board. On behalf of Wytronics LLC, I, Michael Heilman, Executive Vice President and COO, would like to express my gratitude for the opportunity to speak today. More importantly, the December 2024 opportunity to submit a bid on LIRR's Audio Visual Recording and Monitoring System Upgrade, or AVRM, whereby our industry-proven solution would have provided LIRR's organization and passengers with improved operational efficiency and safety. Earlier this year, the request for authorization to award the LIRR AVRM upgrade project was recommended by LIRR's procurement on June 16th, and subsequently approved by the MTA Board on June 25th, leading to a contract being awarded to Gatekeeper Systems USA, Inc. LIRR's procurement recommendation to the MTA Board included a specific citation and reference to Gatekeeper as meeting or exceeding performance standards on a Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, or SEPTA, contract. That SEPTA contract was part of a November 2022 federal indictment, ultimately leading to guilty pleas and sentencing of those involved in July of 2024. Subsequent to MTA Board's AVRM authorization to award, a formal protest was filed on July 11th. After numerous follow-ups over the past few months, the protest is yet to receive a formal response. We are confident that upon consideration, the merits of the protest will speak for themselves, enable LIRR to reaffirm its ongoing commitment to a fair, transparent, and ethical contracting process. It is Wytronics' sincere desire that without any further delays, LIRR and its passengers are enabled to integrate existing infrastructure with the upgraded benefits of an AI-enabled
Thank you for your
platform with
remarks.
unmatched reliability.
The next speaker is Michael Ring, followed by John Padula.
Hiya, my name is Michael Ring. If anyone needs a verbal description of my appearance, I'm a 62-year-old white guy wearing a hoodie. I have eyeglasses. My hand doesn't work too well. It's kind of limp. And I'm wearing ankle-foot orthotics, which you can't see because there's a wall between you guys and me. But I wanted to talk today about a very small part of Accessoride called taxi reimbursement authorization. It's a very good program because sometimes your ride home at the end of the day, your day can be going sideways, and you don't really know when you need to be picked up a day in advance, and you can request to arrange your own transportation and then get paid back. Or if you're headed to someplace like an airport and you don't have any flexibility as to when you're going to get there, you can arrange your own transportation and take an Uber or a yellow cab, and you get reimbursed. This system works very well for the people who choose to use it, and usually you have to mail in your receipt. There's a paper form you can fill out. Over the past few years, there's an online PDF you can type in, and you get a check in the mail about a month later, about the same time your credit card bill would come due. Lately, it's been taking almost 4 months to get paid back. I'm sure everyone in this room, has an expense account, and you get paid back for things you have to do as part of your job. If you had to wait 4 months, you would think twice about having a business lunch or paying for your own transportation. Especially people with disabilities have financial issues. We're borrowing money to travel. We have to extend money on our credit cards. It's just not fair. We're told the system is getting improved. It needs to be staffed up. This has been going on for a while, and it's getting worse and worse every week. I was just dealing with reimbursements from August, and now it's, towards the end of December. I hope this can get fixed.
Thank you for your remarks.
Thank you.
Our next and final speaker will be John Padula.
Gotcha.
All right, last but not least. Good morning, folks. My name is John Padula. I'm a supervisor with Educational Vision Services. I've also been a longtime member of the Advisory Committee for Transit Accessibility. So, Jano, to your point last month, this agency shouldn't be penalized for running improved paratransit service. And I don't know if anybody noticed Christopher Alvarez's piece in Able News yesterday, but he had an interview with the mayor, and I'm glad to hear that the incoming mayor is saying that that should be celebrated, the fact that more people are using paratransit, and it needs to be dependable, and we should celebrate that people are moving about and living their best lives, right? So to that point, dependability is one thing, but flexibility and spontaneity is another. And I realize it's an extra step, and all this costs money. I hope that our incoming mayor and this municipality will put their money where their mouth is and help us figure out the funding and deal with all those issues that we all know are looming. In terms of flexibility and spontaneity, the two best ways to do that are through taxi authorizations like Michael Ring was talking about, and through on-demand. And those are things that we can talk about in the new year and figure out that funding. I quickly want to say that, as a longtime member of ACTA, my term is expiring, and I just want to thank everyone involved from the beginning, Alex, Rachel, the original folks from SWA, Mira, Sarah. ACTA gave me my entree to advocacy, and if it wasn't for that time with those people, and I've learned so much from everybody, I wouldn't be here right now talking to you guys. So I think important relationships were built, and I hope that keeps happening. And I just want to say Merry Christmas if you celebrate, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is. Have a great holiday season, and we'll see you in the new year. Go Bills.
Chair Lieber, we have reached the allotted time for this public comment session. At this time, we ask the remaining registered speakers to stand by as we transition to a separate live recording session. If you are a remote public speaker participating on Zoom, please stand by and wait for further instructions from the moderator. Public speakers in the room, please join us in conference room 4. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you, and thank you to the public speakers who have joined us this morning. General Counsel Paige Grage, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So before we begin the presentations today, we're going to convene an executive session on labor matters. May I have a motion to convene such a session under Public Officers Law? Thank you, Mr. Herbst. Thank you for a second, Mr. Fleischer. We are in executive session. Back in a bit. Okay. I can report that while in executive session, the board considered and voted affirmatively on several labor agreements. And we're now back in regular session. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this month's meeting, our last of the year. Very happy holidays, especially to our extended family of advocates and folks who come to these meetings regularly. We got a lot of ground to cover, so my holiday gift to all of you is a shorter than usual spiel from me. In a few minutes, you're going to hear from John Kaufman, who is the Chief of Strategic Initiatives, which is our in-house consulting operation. And they have prepared a year-end roundup on the data, relevant data for this year. His team has been crunching numbers on ridership, service, efficiencies, and many other things, and he'll explain what they mean for us as an agency, as a transit system. Spoiler alert, it's good news for many reasons, and there are a few that I just want to highlight quickly. Good news item number one, the MTA is in solid, very solid financial condition. As Jay explained on Monday, we have a balanced budget for the third year running, and the out-year deficits, which is always the challenge, have been shrunk to half of 1% or less, which is pretty remarkable considering recent MTA history. Even before the pandemic, the MTA generally had a tough time getting the numbers in a five-year plan to get even close. Jose Martinez did a really good piece on where we are in the city magazine recently, and explained how we got to where we are financially and why we're in a much better condition than virtually all of our U.S. transit peers. And the answer is thank you, Governor Hochul. Good news item number two, congestion pricing. Today you're going to vote on a procurement that is representative of the program's impact, the Fulton CBTC project. This is being paid for by congestion pricing, and it's going to mean enormous improvement in reliability and the volume of service for folks who ride the A and the C trains in Brooklyn and Queens. We've been hearing a lot about the different benefits of congestion pricing as year one wraps up. Cornell University put out a great study about how congestion pricing has delivered improvements in air quality, not just inside the CBD, but throughout the city and even region-wide. And of course, we know the vehicle entries are down by 20 million, and there are huge benefits to travel speeds, especially for commuters who are headed into the CBD. And as I said, you're going to hear about some of the things that congestion pricing is paying for, those new signals on the A and C line from High Street all the way to Ozone Park, and also ADA package number 9, which is 5 additional ADA accessibility projects. Critical projects, both of these, that are going to make a huge difference for our riders. And finally, good news item number 3, which is safety. I don't mean to discount the importance of the way we have improved service and increased investment in transit. And we've done a lot of both of those this year. But we know that the number one concern of riders is safety. At the beginning of this year, we were receiving a lot of agita from the federal government about this issue, and we responded with just the facts, which are like this. Crime is down 5.5% this year on the subways, and over 14% compared to pre-COVID. This is all a tribute to the enormous efforts that the NYPD has expended, but it's also a testament to this agency's intense focus on safety. Every month, I talk about the investments we've made in partnership with Governor Hochul and with the NYPD. Overnight patrols, security cameras, more and more effective homeless outreach, better lighting, and all those platform barriers that Demetrius spoke about on Monday. Riders are seeing it, and it helps keep them coming back. Don't forget, we've broken subway ridership records twice in the last 2 weeks. Last Saturday was the busiest weekend day on the subways since 2019, and it was the same the new records for the weekends on all the on both the commuter railroads. So we have a lot of momentum going into the new year. But to close out 2025, we put together a short video that highlights some of the work we've done together in these past 12 months. So why don't we show that to the board and the public right now. 3, 2, 1. Everybody knows this is a huge weekend in New York. Congestion pricing goes live Saturday night, midnight, going into Sunday, as planned.
A little bit after 5 o'clock, this is 42nd and 9th. There are no cars here.
We're doing something that's historic. It's the first in the nation.
You know how essential it is to have safe, reliable public transit, or else this system shuts down. And I also want to say, the cameras are staying on. We are keeping the cameras on. We do not back down, not now, not ever.
The Rockaway line is officially reopened. Rockaway residents can now depend on more reliable service along the A line for many years to come.
We served more than 1 million riders in February on about 775,000 completed trips, and reaching our goal of 94% of trips picked up within the 20-minute on-time performance window.
A major revision of the city's iconic subway map for the first time since 1979.
This task was a no-fail exercise, and the team behind me stepped up because they knew our customers deserve the best.
On our bridge and tunnel crossings, we've also been a leader in the multi-agency task force to crack down on ghost plates. In just over a year of operations, we've issued over 45,000 summonses, towed over 4,400 vehicles, and made over 1,000 arrests.
I was grateful and appreciative that the MTA, along with students, were taking important steps to raise awareness about the dangers of subway surfing. I believe they have the power to save lives by speaking directly to the people who need to hear them the most.
So what this does is it really provides better connections to the subway, to the railroad, and we have introduced rush routes, which also take the time down that it takes for a customer to get from point A to B.
August was a strong month for buses, showing continued improvements across the board. Service delivery came in at 93.6%. That's up 3.2% from last year and 1.7% from July.
Have you wondered what these colorful QR codes are? The NaviLens app provides audio information for riders who are blind or have low vision.
NYPD data shows a 22.5% reduction in overall crime this August versus last August.
We reached record levels of performance in August with 85.1% on-time performance. That was not only the best August in 10 years, it was only 1/10 of a point short of the modern day record.
Always a joy to come out and celebrate our 1 billionth subway rider of the year. We're actually doing more with spending less, and that allowed the governor to get the legislature to sign off on that $68 billion capital program. It is mostly power, signals, and structure, but we're going to buy 1,500 subway cars and 500 rail cars and a ton of buses. The Second Avenue subway is moving forward aggressively, and we have done so many elevator and escalator replacements that we just hit a record on elevator availability. We had over 98% in the month of September, and it's partly due to our aggressive program of replacing old elevators. So tip of the hat to C&D and to Transit for getting it done.
MTA really made a commitment to making so much work in the stations. It really changed people's lives.
You have the best collection of public art in the world.
It's this wonderful, generous gift to the city.
Metro North's reliability and ridership remain strong. October's on-time performance was 98.3%, and year-to-date is at 97.9%.
For the month of October, total on-time performance was 96.3%. Outside of COVID years, that's our best October in recorded history. And year-to-date, we're also at 96.3%.
New and improved service is coming to the F&M trains in Manhattan and Queens. On weekdays, beginning December 8th, the F&M lines will swap stations between Long Island City and Midtown.
We're also focused on the transition to tap and ride. We want to get the last few holdouts on board by the end of the year to make the transition.
Hey, New York, it's Cardi B.
Hey, New York, it's Cat's Eye.
Yo, we're the cast of Broadway's hit musical from Alicia Keys' Hell's Kitchen.
Hey, New York, it's Ryan Chang.
Hi, I'm Trey Anastasio from the band Fish.
It's Oscar the Grouch from Sesame Street.
Hey, it's Andy Cohen saying a fond farewell to the MetroCard and a sweet hello to the Tap and Ride.
Yeah. So, a big kudos to Shanifa and the creative team that puts all that stuff together. Well done, guys. Well done. And, you know, when we're going over what was accomplished this year, I can't let it pass without acknowledging that none of this could be possible without the support of the board, which has been stalwart. You know, this was a challenging year. We remember, we started with congestion pricing, and you saw some of the things that we got through in this year. Capital program, safety, many issues. And this board has really been consistent in standing up for transit and for the MTA, and not just as fiduciaries, but as supporters of the staff throughout. So a big thank you to all of you. Okay, now the staff has got a clap for the board now. Okay, with that, I want to turn it over to John Kaufman. Where's John? John, okay. For a quick trip through the stats. John.
This may not be as... Hi. Well, this may not be as sexy as the video we just went into, but I do want to show some substance behind the operation as well. My name is John Kaufman. Good morning, everybody. I'm the Chief of Strategic Initiatives Group here at headquarters. Well, this board has been intimately involved in all the big accomplishments of the MTA this year. You know, today I want to go a bit deeper into the data that feeds into the decisions and actions that led to these accomplishments. Well, I've been in public sector management for over 10 years. In my first career, I was a management consultant, and I also bring that training with me to my work here, using data analytics to help my fellow MTA leaders tackle the hard things, as the chair often says. My team and I focus daily on helping the MTA be more productive and feel strongly we have a responsibility that riders and taxpayers are getting their money's worth. I'm especially jazzed to show you more of the details of the good news at the MTA today. Let me outline first what I see as the 5 big wins of 2025. The board is familiar with all of these. You know, firstly, ridership is surging. Secondly, nearly all riders are now using tap and ride. Third, crime is at historic lows. Fourth, we had the largest ever capital program approved and have started that. And fifth, and certainly not least, congestion pricing is almost at its 1-year anniversary. I would argue that getting any 3 of these done in a year would be a substantial success, but this organization has gotten all 5 of these done. So let me take you into that data that'll give you even more confidence in this leadership team. Everyone in this room thinks more about the MTA than probably any other 150 people on the planet. For folks somewhat new watching the session today, I want to level set on what we're managing here. As a start, when I think of complex transit operations, I actually think of airlines first. Does anyone know how many passengers a day Delta Airlines flies around the world? Anyone want to guess? Huge international network, 1,000 planes, 4,000 flights a day, 450,000 people. If you added United to that, it's another 400,000. American, another 400,000. These are big, huge operations. Southwest is actually the biggest carrier in the U.S., maybe less than 1.73 million airline passengers. The MTA every day, 6.5 million passengers. You would appreciate the storytelling deal. This is 3x what the airlines carry every day. This group of executives feel that responsibility in managing our own complex operation. 5 modes, a construction arm, headquarters functions, And we aim to manage it with data just as deftly as these private sector transportation agencies do. So let's get into what we've done this year. This slide shows how ridership compares to 2019 across each of our properties. We look at this every week as managers, and this is for the last week, the second week in December, which actually included Sunday, which was that snow day, which did depress transit. But at a glance, you can see almost every mode is nearing the 100% line of 2019 traffic. On the far right, you see Access-a-Ride through the charts as a result of strong demand and improving reliability. Also on the right, Bridge and Tunnels is slightly above its crossings from 2019. The railroads in the middle are both closing in on 100%. Metro North with outstanding on-time performance, Long Island Railroad not far behind, and also opening Grand Central Madison in this period. Now, folks often talk about today's paid ridership as a percentage compared to pre-COVID, but for some modes, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, where fare evasion levels have shifted. So in a period during COVID where fare collection had less enforcement on the buses, we've seen an increased amount of fare evasion. That's no secret, despite our efforts. But here you can see on the chart that total ridership for buses, paid and unpaid, actually exceeds our 2019 levels. Right now, we're carrying more passengers than we did pre-2019. And if you look at it for subways, you can also see we're very close to the 100% line of ridership back to pre-COVID levels. Let me take you a little bit deeper into the data as to what's driving this growth. This chart shows you ridership by hour, comparing midweek days in October year on year. When you look at, while the lines may look right on top of each other, I assure you the 2025 line is actually higher at every single hour of the day than 2024. And overall, we're 5.5% higher subway growth year on year for this period in October. This is a sign of two things to us. One, overall, New York is back. Every hour of the day, people are choosing public transit. And people have to get somewhere beyond the office to see friends, visit the doctor. They're choosing to take the MTA. You can see on the right-hand side some other interesting trends. Not only is subways putting on more reliable service, the growth in evenings and overnight speaks to the increase in safety people are feeling, and I'll come back to that a little bit later. In terms of geographies, we're seeing more growth actually outside Manhattan. This chart shows segments of lines that are growing much faster than average. Now, there is one Manhattan segment that's growing quite quickly. You'll see that on the far left, on the BMT. This handles most of the tourist traffic. They're, again, choosing discretionarily to ride the subway as a safe and reliable way to get around. I will note that Midtown and Uptown Manhattan are largely flat in Manhattan, and again, we're not seeing as much movement there as we're seeing helping folks in the boroughs. And here you see a lot of North Brooklyn on the chart between the J and the L and the G. We're seeing station growth at Bedford, Graham, Morgan, Manhattan Avenue, Marcy, Nostrand. These are all areas with enormous housing growth when you think of Williamsburg and Greenpoint and Bushwick. And they're also increasingly destinations for entertainment. And we're seeing that riders choosing the MTA to get to these places. I'll also note these lines are getting more reliable. Bill and his team with Demetrius have done an amazing job showing steady improvement on these focus areas. And we've also added off-peak service for many of these lines. In the case of the G, the new subway cars also help make it a more appealing option. But overall, I think a strong story of growth happening all over New York. Let me move on to the commuter railroads. I mentioned before, we're almost back to 2019 levels overall, but one thing that's a very amazing success story within that is the ridership return attributable to City Ticket. For those of you unfamiliar, City Ticket offers discounted flat fare commuter rail travel within the 5 boroughs. As an example, you can travel from Hollis to Penn Station for just $5 in the off-peak and $7 in the peak, and that takes 28 minutes on the Long Island Railroad versus over an hour if you're going to do a bus-subway combination. This product really helps hardworking folks shorten their commute from points in northern Brooklyn, eastern Queens, and the Bronx. Here you see the growth since we've broadened this product. Prior to 2022, City Ticket was offered just as a discount on the weekends. In February 22, with this board's support, we added off-peak during the weekdays, and it doubled sales. In August 2023, we then extended it to peak travel at a slightly higher rate. Again, we've nearly doubled sales. City Ticket now makes up nearly 11% of Long Island Railroad's revenue and a meaningful part of the railroad growth story. You can see on the right some of these stations that are continuing to buy it as more and more people find out about it and see it as another option within the MTA portfolio to get where they want to get to faster. Let me move on to our second big accomplishment, Tap and Ride. As has been discussed many times on this board, these riders are coming back and we're saving them time and we're also making it easier for them to pay. with Tap and Ride. Folks now appreciate MetroCard is retiring at the end of the month. What they may not fully appreciate is how far we've come in the last 2 years of getting people comfortable with this. You know, in November 2023, as you can see here, we only had 44% of people tapping. Our commercial, customer, and technical teams have worked tirelessly together to systematically convert 6 different customer segments that actually have had to make this choice to Tap and Ride. Full fare customers, reduced fare customers, fair fare customers, pre-tax benefit users, students, people who purchase in retail. Each of those segments had their own hesitations not to switch. And one by one, we've tackled each of those issues to get to this point where 92% of people are tapping gratefully and easily in November. Importantly, in terms of value for customers, you can see here 300,000 customers are reaching the fare cap in a typical week. And I will say 7-day MetroCard, which has gotten perhaps more attention than needed, has reduced to 87% of sales, even though it's still on sale today, not for much longer. Most folks who did 7-day MetroCard have already figured out Tap and Ride is a better deal for them. Let me move on to crime. As the chair just said, it's down 5% year to date. And we know this is important to customers. We've been working with MTA PD and NYPD to do more about it and have been successful. You know, as the data guy here, I want to again level set on what the facts are regarding crime and make sure that there's no chance for misunderstanding how successful this has been. One thing I prefer to look at is actually crimes per million passengers, and that rate is what we're showing on this slide. And this is also in your regular committee books. This rate standardizes the crime amount against any given person's chance of it happening to them, which is what people often think about. And you can see in the transit system, this has gone steadily down since the COVID era, which was in many ways driven by fewer passengers on the route, fewer passengers riding. And this year we're going at 1.51 crimes per million riders, nearly what 2019 was. In absolute terms, we hear about violent crimes in the newspaper and from social media. Everyone around the table agrees these are heinous, and one crime in the system is one crime too many. But in any given day, with 4.5 million subway riders a day, there were fewer than 6 major crimes happening across the 472 stations. 6 crimes across 472 stations. I think this is much lower than what people perceive is happening out there in a subway each day. The universe of assaults, misdemeanor and felony assaults, which is also something that we've been watching closely, are also down 5% year to date. Lastly, I would say it's important to remember that within this rate, half of these crimes are grand larceny. This is theft of property without force. Someone getting pickpocketed or stealing an unattended laptop quietly is grand larceny, and that's half of this crime rate. The progress here has happened thanks to strong support from Governor Hochul, steady partnership with NYPD, who we and all New Yorkers know we can dependably count on. And our customers are seeing it. This was mentioned previously in our monthly pulse, which is something that, again, we survey thousands of people every month to understand how their experience has been on the subways, buses, and paratransit, reported out in transit committee books. Demetrius and his team look at this data closely every month as soon as it comes out. And here you can see, again, this huge jump in safety over the course of this year from that increased focus. 57% feeling safe in January, up to 71% last month when we ran the survey. Folks feeling safe in the subway is essential. It's something they deserve, and we're glad to see these numbers. Let me get on to the fourth big accomplishment, which happened again previous this year on the capital program. The folks in C&D under Jamie's leadership took on the challenge of laying out with detailed facts what they think we actually need to keep the system reliable. They made the case to this board, who validated that detailed work, and with the support of the governor and legislature, we have a $68.4 billion capitally funded program for the next 5 years. That's $68.4 billion, $14 billion more than the previous one, and nearly double the 2015-19 plan. It's a realistic, necessary investment and commitment to keep the system in a state of good repair. As you remember, it will also pay for some of those things on the right: 2,000 rail cars, rehabilitating subway and commuter railroad stations, new fare gates in 150 stations going in this month, starting to go in this month, and modern signals along at least 75 miles. Now, reasonably, folks were wondering, could the MTA responsibly spend $68 billion capital program given the engineering and procurement work, which is a prerequisite? Jamie will speak more to this next month, but we've committed more than $15 billion in 2025. This would be a record, putting us on a very real track to spend it wisely and on time. One more point I'll make on capital. While I'm no expert, one principle I was taught back in business school is that if you're relying on an asset to run an operation, you need to constantly reinvest in that asset to keep it healthy, so returns keep flowing. In our case, it's to keep the customers coming back. One rule of thumb is 1% to 2% of the underlying asset value is what you should be reinvesting every year. And if you do the math on our asset base, 1.5 trillion, the 15 billion we've just spoke above would be about 1.5% of our asset value. For me, that's a solid range to be in and a solid start to this new plan. You can also follow this capital plan and our progress against it in the capital planning dashboard. This is something that advocates have been looking for some time, and we wanted to get right. And you can see it up there live today and watch how the progress is going on all of those projects that Jamie's and his team are managing. You can also see progress in real life. And the accessibility story, I think, is one of the stronger ones and one that we are all very committed to here. On the left-hand side, you can see by the end of this plan, we'll have 272 accessible subway stations, more than half. 154 are accessible today, and nearly 40 of those were done in the last 5 years. The pace of our installs is growing very, very quickly. There's another 34 in active construction today, including 3 coming online in early 2026. There's another 79 in the pipeline being procured or designed, and they're going to vote on 5 later today. While this is over half the subway stations, more importantly, by the end of this, 70% of riders will be going in or out of a station that has accessibility by the end of the plan. And no rider will be more than 1 stop away from an accessible station. That'll be a huge milestone, and again, we're committed to spending this money wisely and quickly. The last accomplishment of the Big 5 is congestion pricing. This is a major win for New Yorkers in 2025. And we'll be celebrating its 1-year anniversary next month, where you'll hear fuller details of its success at the January board meeting. Let me give you a preview of some of the highlights you can see on this slide. Fewer vehicles in the CBD, down 11%. For people who choose to drive, they're actually finding slightly higher speeds for cars. But for people who don't have cars, they're benefiting from fewer noise complaints. Many more of them are now, we can see, are walking more safely in the CBD, where the traffic is reduced. And very recently, we saw the air quality has been improved in a measurable way by Cornell University. Again, you'll get more details on that next month, but I would say a remarkable success. One other accomplishment that didn't make the Big 5, but I think is crucial for our credibility, is keeping our balanced budget in this type of ridership returns and the bumpy road it's been in the last few years to this stable place today. Rather than solely rely on Albany to help with the revenue shortfall, the MTA and its operating agencies committed to delivering $500 million in annual recurring savings with board support. On the chart on the left, you can see cost savings by agency, and you've seen a version of this a few times in the CFO's office previous reports. And to recap, in 2025, we had 63 distinct initiatives that achieved these savings, and we're continuing to extend that savings program with ongoing improvements in productivity and efficiency. At this point, there's no easy ways to save money at the MTA. It's a lot of singles and doubles, but they're out there and they add up, and we're tracking them down. In the vein of this presentation, I've listed out a few more examples for you that maybe you haven't heard before, and the data we use internally to track the progress and to help size the outstanding opportunity. If I rattle through a few of these, given the time we're taking here, workers' comp claims have been reduced overall. We're getting fewer people are injured on work and fewer people are filing claims. And when they do go out, we're making sure they're handled professionally, efficiently, and getting back to work as soon as they're able. That's realized as a 10% reduction in days out due to workers' comp. That's good for employees, that there's less people hurt, and it's also good for our business because we're paying less overtime to cover those jobs. We reduced our time to hire for new staff. This is important not just because managers get frustrated having vacancies, but again, it helps us keep overtime down because we fill those jobs faster and we don't need to backfill them overall. Transit's come down from a median of 166 days to 105 days this most recent year. There's further to go, but it's been a massive step forward working with the HR function and the transit teams. Our new OmniCard vending machines, which are, I'd say, slicker and more vandal resistant, actually go out of service 70% less frequency than MetroCards. If you think about that, that's, again, a lot more times that the machine is working in front of the customer when they walk up, and it's a lot less time for us running around trying to fix machines. This has been a big deal for us, and again, contributes to some of the benefits for us internally of Omni. Reduced cash collection is also a big deal. The society is moving to with a little less cash in society, and our own collections are down 70%. We're collecting 70% less cash than 2018. Obviously, if there's less cash out there, we don't need as many armored trucks, we don't need as many armored guards running around the system, and again, it's positive for our overall bottom line. Lastly, we also have done a lot of work in procurement to standardize those processes for ordering replacement parts. We regularly have to order more headlights, windshield wipers, cables, and these disposables, or replaceable consumables rather, for buses and subways. And we focused on reducing the time it takes to order those, so we have fewer out of stocks. Again, we track this every month. We're working to move it down, and we're seeing procurement timeframes for these types of goods 50% faster than they were just a year ago. Again, focus and using metrics to measure and manage our business. The data I've shared you today is actually largely available on our open data portal. This is also something else the executive team has been committed to. And you can see here what's happened by open data releases over the last 15 years. Since the passage of the open data law in 2021, we've dedicated more staff resources to this, and we share data much more fluidly to the state for everybody as soon as we have it cleaned in our data lake. Over 277 data sets 227 data sets are in the portal today, and again, we'll have a steady program to do that based on input from the advocates. You've sat through a lot of these details today in a short period of time. Hopefully, happily, let me wrap up with just a couple that I want you to sort of take away. If there's just two things that you keep in mind as you think about the MTA. Firstly, this is one you've seen a version before, but in real 2019 dollars, we are spending less money in 2025 than 2019. For what I would argue is better service. We've added service to 13 subway lines, 24 bus routes, a new Long Island Railroad terminal, and running Super Express trains on Metro North, and we're running it for cheaper than we did in 2019. And lastly, and I think importantly to us all, customers are telling us they're more satisfied. Here you can see on the left-hand side that monthly pulse survey I talked about for November, bus up 8 points, subway up 10 points. And on the right-hand side, the railroads, again, this is the spring survey, up 11 points for Long Island Railroad, and up to a remarkable 89% of people satisfied on Metro North. For me, these two things are the summary of the great story we've had this year. We're running more efficient service, and our customers are recognizing the overall experience and telling us that they like what we're doing. So with that, let me hand back to you, Chair, and take any questions or details that you want to provide.
I just want to invite board member questions or comments on any of this. I mean, the point of this was to go a layer deeper than, we always talk about ridership and, and the basic stats on safety and some other stuff. I think John's digging a little bit deeper about giving us some tools that allow us to continue to make progress on these fronts. So that was the idea here. Midori, you had a question or comment?
A comment. Can we go back to the slide around crime, but as it relates to with per 1 million passengers? I found this super compelling because one thing I do get frustrated by when folks talk about crime is saying like, oh, this happened today, or the incremental increase or decrease compared to last year. But you're right. What people want to know is like, what is kind of my probability, right? And I always tell customers or people who are concerned, like, legitimate, right? It's really difficult when something happens in our systems, and I've had experiences in systems that's not fun, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, when I think about the fact that we're carrying so many riders, it's actually really quite impressive, right? And the subways are our public plaza. And so the things that will happen on the streets can happen on the subways and vice versa. So I really like the way we're couching this, and I would ask us to, when we talk about, incremental or the variances from prior years, also bring this up in terms of like where we are in terms of our the actual probability or, So anyway, just to really appreciate this because I think it puts into context. You're completely right. Any crime, we try to reduce crime everywhere we go. It does not matter. But I think this is the kind of data that is actually like actionable for a rider.
Yes.
So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think this is something that we'd like people to understand better is how infrequent it happens overall and how, in this complex, huge organization. I think the rate does it, but it doesn't, it doesn't grab the headlines like some people want to.
Yeah, and I think about per 1 million riders, let's look at a city that has 1 million people. What is the crime rate there, right? And so really thinking about it from that perspective, I'd love to see this compared to the city of Houston. Like, what are we talking about here? So really appreciate that.
Great.
Mr. Albert and Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you for your presentation, John. It was really, really great. And the city ticket statistics are very impressive. And as a real champion of city ticket for many years, we think that if you had a weekly or monthly city ticket with transfers to buses and subways, you would probably get people totally out of their cars. Because if you had their commuter rail, their bus, and their subway taken care of, why would you drive? It would just be so much more attractive, I think, to people. Not that the current city ticket isn't attractive. Obviously, the numbers show that it is. But I think we would attract a lot more people if we had that, on a weekly version of it, if you had a free transfer to the subway or bus.
Yeah. No, I mean,
You got to stand. You got to sign up for 2 minutes at the podium if you're going to do that speech, Andrew.
I did it in under 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you. Very good presentation. Much appreciated. Could you just forward me and the rest of the board members your list of what your annual major felonies includes?
Yeah, it's this presentation's online. We did include at the bottom here. There's a footnote here for folks, again, to help get across this point. What the list of the top 6 felonies there at the bottom.
This is the definition that the NYPD uses. We follow their standard. They call it the index crimes.
Right, index crimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Lisa Soren.
Mine is just an overall comment to say, first of all, the presentation was outstanding. And second, I think as a wraparound, this year has not only been extremely challenging, but so successful. And to see it put in black and white, our budget, the capital, congestion, I mean, we've heard it all as board members. So a huge thank you to the staff, to my colleagues. This has been an incredible year, at least in the 2 years that I've been serving. I'm super proud to be sitting at this table. So congratulations to all. Quick question, with the casinos coming online, what does that mean for us moving forward?
Sure. On Monday, the commission approved the casinos, the 3 licenses. So we'll start, the requirement is 30 days from award. We would start receiving the actual license fees, which are all 3 of them were awarded at $500 million. So we'll get that money next year. In the financial plan, we've planned them over 3 years, so we'll just adjust the financial plan for receipt. And then once they're up and running, each of the casinos have proposed a percentage of tax revenue that the MTA would get. The current Resorts World already contributes revenue to education aid, so there's a formula there for the MTA after holding harmless education aid, and then the 2 other casinos, which are in the city zones, would share 50% of the tax revenue collection with the MTA. Those are not set to be online until 2030, possibly, or later. So those will be a little bit further out for revenue purposes for the MTA.
But we've budgeted a conservative projection of those tax receipts as part of our financial plan. So I think we've been pretty diligent about not, putting us at risk and the system at risk financially to the performance of the casinos. Everybody's, wondering how casinos are going to operate in New York. There's a lot more casinos in the world than there used to be, yada, yada. But we've been pretty conservative about the out-year projections.
Tax revenue doesn't come into the financial plan until 2028 for us.
Mr. Glucksman, and then back to Ms. Valdivia.
Thank you. Great presentation. I kept the slide from December 2020 showing what McKinsey said we would be doing. I just shared it with everybody here. It was 79% for last year, so we've exceeded it. So
you can say it out loud. We hit the projections, Randy, right?
Yes, you absolutely did.
Okay. All right. Back to you, Midori.
Clarifying for Jay, so the $500 million, the license fee, is it a one-time upfront payment? Okay.
It is a one-time license fee as part of their proposals. It's one time for the MTA. I just want to make sure, right, the tax revenue that
It's
would be
separate,
ongoing would replace the one-time revenue fee.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. So we're going to do, before we do the board business, I have one last thing to be done, and it requires. Before we do the board business, there's one last thing to be done, and it involves Mr. Kaufman vacating his seat and putting that up. All right. Yes.
And he was so good.
Yeah. Hi, Kathy. Well, welcome. This is slightly awkward because Kathy Wild is retiring as the longtime head of the Partnership for New York City, and she hates being celebrated. So we have to thank her. Yes, but we couldn't. The MTA. Forget about this MTA or this board, but the MTA over years and years and years has to extend a big thank you to Kathy for everything she's done for transit as well as for the rest of New York. Maybe alone among business leaders in the United States, she has spoken up for transit as a huge must-have for business success in urban America. So we thank her for that. We also thank her for indulging us in letting us give this honor. She's one of those people who's passionate about the issues, but who doesn't crave the recognition. So it's a rare combination in so many ways. And it's fitting to celebrate Kathy this month, not just because she's at the end of her amazing, amazing tenure across the street at the Partnership, but also because we're capping off the first full year of congestion pricing. Nobody fought harder or for longer than Kathy Wild to make this program a reality or invested more of herself and her time. So on behalf of all of us, Kathy, thank you. And try not to cringe too hard at the video we're now going to show.
If you cover the city for the New York Times or any other big publication, there are a few people that you want to talk to, and they are people who understand how the city works and what's necessary to keep the city going. And Kathy is one of those people.
The three words I use to describe Kathy Wild would be smart, strong, and devoted.
Fierce, honest, and loyal.
Indefatigable, she is focused, and she is results-oriented.
Service, persistence, and New Yorker.
Always open, engaging, and a true New Yorker.
Why do we love Kathy Wild? Because she's so chill. Psych! She's not chill. She's very intense. She gets a lot of stuff done.
So Kathy's made a huge impact in New York City. She's led the New York City Partnership for years. She cares deeply about it. She's had great relationship with political leaders and business leaders. She's done it across many subjects, from crime to the MTA and safe and secure transportation.
And she has also been very, very helpful in getting the business community to understand the importance that transit is to our region.
I think it's rare to have somebody who works at the high level of business that Kathy does, who still recognizes the importance of mass transportation.
Kathy has been a thought partner, an agitator, and a true believer in what makes the city move.
Kathy Wild led the fight for congestion pricing. She was at it for 20 years to make sure that this critical piece of policy got done. She never stopped pushing because she knew it was the right thing for the MTA and for New York.
What people don't know as much about is the fact that she has actually directly helped the MTA to become more innovative about technology. Her Transit Tech Lab program has brought small, innovative companies into contact with MTA and allowed us to try out different kinds of technology and creative and software solutions. Huge step forward for an agency that is sometimes slow to adopt new technologies. And she's also fostered the cultivation of a new generation of civic leaders through her Rockefeller Fellowship Program, a group of people in business and government and labor and nonprofits that I meet with every year as Kathy is helping them to get a full picture of how New York works. And we really owe a debt of gratitude to her for cultivating the next generation of civic leaders. Thank you, Kathy.
You know, Kathy, nobody retires. You might think you're going to retire, but you're not. And I don't know what you're going to do exactly, but the city, the MTA, the world of journalism, we still need you. So you can't retire. Forget it.
Wait.
That's such an honor, and there is no more important institution, and I've never seen the institution better led than in these years. So congratulations to this board and to the team that Jano has put together. You guys have done a terrific job. I know many of you for many years, and thank you for this service. I will say that it's not about me. The partnership has the MTA in its DNA. Any of you who ever heard Dick Ravitch hand out credits, he starts with when he took David Rockefeller into the subways in 1981, and David not only went down and visited the subways, saw the distress, but then proceeded to get Warren Anderson, who he flew down here by helicopter, of course, who was the head of the Republican head of the state Senate, and said, you have to fund this. And the investment that followed was the first step in rebuilding a system that was at that point literally falling apart. So David was first. Then Virg Conway was a member of our board, chairman, one of the founders of the partnership, and obviously came in to chair the MTA, and I worked closely with him. Those were different years, but but equally dedicated to a great transit system. And then finally, my immediate predecessor at the partnership as the CEO was Bob Kiley, who also did his stint at leadership of this agency. So I can take no credit except for congestion pricing, I'll tell you something. I will take some credit for that. I'm actually being asked to, I just got a call yesterday to go out and advise LA on how they might adopt a congestion pricing. So anyhow, so this is again, it's a great honor, and I really appreciate it. But I inherited a commitment, and that will continue. By the way, there's no letting up on this. 82% of the office workers in Manhattan ride public transit to and from. It's a really important thing, and it is only going to become more important in the years ahead as we lose more and more street space. Just another, just saying. So anyhow, you're going nowhere. You're going to have the support of the business community, and I have total confidence in that. So good to see all of you, and thank you very much.
Okay. All right, and just finally, we had to, you have to give a gift in these occasions, and we took the cue from Kathy. She needed a retirement-related gift. So we did.
Well, thank you.
You can wear that to your next ugly sweater party.
I still have a token, so thank you. That's great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks very much. This is great.
We sell those. That's fantastic. Those are.
Thank you all.
Those ugly sweaters are available for sale at the Transit Museum. At the Transit Museum. Yeah, no, that's That's one version of MTA swag. Okay, so let's go. Let's get through our regular board business now, if we can. And again, thank you to Kathy for indulging us by letting us do that. We are starting with the financial plan, and Jay is going to describe the action before the board today.
Thank you, Chair. Today, we're seeking board adoption of the 2026 budget and the four-year financial plan through 2029. We first presented this plan to the board in November and provided an update to Finance Committee on Monday. The good news is that this is a strong plan, stronger than our July plan projections, with meaningful lower out-year deficits. We are closing out 2025 on a strong financial foundation, maintaining tight expense controls as ridership and revenues continue to improve. The proposed 2026 budget totals $21.3 billion and remains balanced. While the out years remain challenging, total deficits across 27 through 29 are 1% of the budget. Strong support from Governor Hochul and the state legislature, combined with aggressive MTA cost efficiencies, has allowed us to stabilize our finances, protect service, and avoid the deep service cuts and fare increases facing peer agencies. Through the hard work of our agency presidents, we have incorporated $500 million in recurring annual operating efficiencies while continuing to expand and improve service. These savings were initiated by management to ensure the MTA was part of the solution. We are now targeting an additional $250 million to help reduce deficits. As a result, we have kept real costs below 2019 levels and maintained debt service at approximately 15% of our operating budget. The budget is based on reasonable revenue estimates informed by current ridership trends and the performance of our dedicated taxes and subsidies. With that, I'm happy to take any questions after we take the motion to approve.
Okay. I'll make the motion. May I have a second? Lisa Soren, second. There any discussion or comments? Mr. Zuckerman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I may repeat a bit of what I said at the Finance Committee meeting on Monday, but I think it's worthy when we've passed over $20 billion in terms of our budgets, worthy of spending a couple of minutes talking about it. So I did start with a bit of an aphorism, which is I think it's important to think with optimism but act with some vigilance. And I think this budget does this. This is a very good budget, and I'm proud of our first ever female CFO in passing this budget, which we'll do momentarily. It does what a budget's meant to do. What is a budget meant to do? It's meant to fund an entity, a business, an organization, a government. We are funding this business. We're funding it smartly. The cost efforts are meaningful. As John pointed out, they are singles and doubles. This is not an easy organization to cut costs in because of the percentage that are represented workers, but it is, since most of our budget is labor. I thank the agency presidents for driving that, and that's very important. And secondarily, of course, there are very modest fare increases in this plan. We can debate the term hike versus increase. I think this is modest. It is certainly below inflation, so it's a great job. There is the recurring problem, though, of the medium term. Those out years, as Jano correctly identified, have always been negative. In the decade I've been on this board, there's always negativity further out. But as John said, it's getting harder to cut costs, and there's not that many levers we have as a board to close the budget as we're required to do. We can either cut costs or we can raise fares. As you know, you raise fares a point, you generate about $50 million of incremental revenue. We got a $300 million gap. That means you'd have to raise fares 6 points. That no one wants to do that. We don't. That's a hike. It is obvious that this governor is completely committed to this organization. She's done an extraordinary job. In 23, to see those 5 years of balanced budgets was an extraordinary achievement, never been done before. I hope it will be done in the future. But the question will be, what will happen in those out years? How will we close those deficits? I don't know the answer. We will have to look to Governor Hochul when she's reelected to figure that out. The reality is that this organization will do its part, as it always does, but it's going to require vigilance from all of us and our future board members in this organization to close those deficits. So let's be excited about the 26 budget, and let's be very mindful about the plan beyond that.
Yeah, and I just so appreciate your recognition of the contribution of the agency presidents. You know, we tend to focus all the finance agenda on Jay and the CFO team, but people who really manage the budget are the people who, to an enormous extent, are the people who run the agencies. And the fact that they've achieved the $500 million of savings, and I'm looking over at Demetrius and Rob, Justin is participating remotely, Kathy. This is an extraordinary milestone of when the agency presidents have taken on the big task and delivered, and then also have accepted the challenge to continue to deliver in the next 4 years of our financial plan. So really need to acknowledge and thank them for what they've done, and it's all been creative and painful in many cases, but what they continue to do. Other comments or questions? Anyone else wishing to be heard? Okay. We'll take the vote. All in favor of the amendment as it's styled? Is any opposition or abstentions? Okay. The financial plan and the budget is approved. Turning to the regular board business, the minutes of the November board meeting and the minutes from the committees have been distributed to members. Are there any corrections or omissions? Looking around, seeing a thumbs up from Mr. Albert. The minutes are approved as distributed. Bridges and Tunnels Committee met Monday and has no items for board approval. So let's move on to railroads. Mr. Herbst, you are in charge there.
Mr. Chairman, the Railroad Committee met jointly Monday and reports the following. For Metro North Railroad has one item which seeks approval to enter into a contract to accept funds in a congestion mitigation air quality grant from the New York State Department of Transportation. The committee brings this item to the full board for a vote.
May I have a motion? Thank you, Lisa. Second. Dr. Rizzo, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The item carries. The procurement agenda,
Okay.
Mr. Herbst?
The procurement agenda includes one action item for proposed expenditure of $14.8 million. The committee discussed the item and brings it to the full board today for a vote.
Motion. Dr. Rizzo, second. Ms. Mahaltzis, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The item carries.
This concludes the joint railroad report.
Ms. Mahaltzis for Transit Committee, please.
Chair, the New York City Transit Committee met Monday and reports the following. The procurement agenda included two actions for an estimated expenditure of $104.9 million. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
Second. Ms. Miller, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items carry.
This concludes the New York City Transit report.
Staying with you, Ms. Mahaltzis.
Yes.
For Capital.
The Capital Committee met Monday and reports the following. C&D requests approval of 14 actions, would include 8 RFPs, 5 contract modifications, and 1 ratification for a proposed expenditure of $2 billion. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
Okay, little jump from nothing to $2 billion, right?
Yeah, really.
Any second of the motion? Thank you. Dr. Rizzo, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items carry.
This concludes the Capital
Thank
report.
you. And Mr. Zuckerman, would you wind up with the Finance Committee?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the Finance Committee met Monday, and we report the following. Besides obviously moving the budget adoption and financial plan, there are 2 action items this month. The first is approval for the to add alternative dispute resolution services to a competitively negotiated insurance broker agreement for owner-controlled insurance program for the 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2. Second item seeks authorization approval to issue and incur new money bond anticipation notes and other obligations. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
Second. Mr. Herbst, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items carry.
We also have a procurement agenda with 1 competitive procurement for $16.9 million. The committee recommends this item, and I move it.
Second. Dr. Rizzo, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items carry.
Moving to real estate, we have 3 transactional items this month, 1 for MTA headquarters and 2 on behalf of Metro North. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
Second. Ms. Soren, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The real estate matters are approved.
So concludes the Finance Committee report
And
for
so
2025.
concludes today's board business. May I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Ms. Mahaltzis. Second, Ms. Miller. We appreciate appreciate everybody coming. Very, very happy holidays and a safe and healthy New Year to all. We are in adjournment.
Check, check.
First off, Dave Colon, you got some hardware. It may not be the, I'm just old enough to remember 1973, so it's been a long time. We'll take it, right? Listen, I root for every New York team. Can't help that I live in Brooklyn. The board meeting today really brought home what a consequential year this has been. So I tip of the hat to our friend Mr. Kaufman, who does, digs into the data a little bit for us, because I thought, going through some of the key elements, ridership, safety, the tap and ride adoption, capital program, congestion pricing, and the budget efficiencies that allowed us to have that balanced budget for this year and also really shrink those out-year deficits. So the MTA is in very solid financial shape. That was pretty impressive presentation. So I was thrilled with this board meeting, and I think New Yorkers ought to be as well. So Tim, let the games begin.
Thank you. As is our tradition, first time covering this, you go first. Ethan Stark Miller covering his first post-board news conference for AM New York. Ethan. Yes, he's asking for the procedure. You just hit the little button.
Now the little red light goes on. There you go.
Oh, okay. Very exciting. All right. Yeah. I mean, with the Omni uptake numbers, are you expecting that to hit 100% soon, or what's the timeline?
No. It's remember, what's happening is not that we're not going to accept MetroCard. It's that we're stopping MetroCard sales. So there are going to be still people who have MetroCards, and we're at 94%. We're going to get to that last 5 or 6%, I think, over the next few weeks and months, and we've allowed for that by having the transition that we're having, where we're continuing to accept MetroCards and encouraging people to trade in the MetroCards that they've got sitting on their bureau or in their sock drawer or wherever they are for Omni value in whatever form they want.
Are there any MetroCard machines left at this point?
Yeah, especially in the areas where it connects to the B line in Westchester and at Nice Bus in Long Island. We've got a couple extra machines in those areas because those two systems, although they are moving, they're adopting Omni, haven't announced exactly when they're going to do it. It's probably going to be in early January, so we have a couple extra machines in the locations that connect there. And we've also done some extra outreach with our mobile vans and otherwise so that folks in Westchester, the validators are on the buses. They have not yet announced exactly when they're turning them on for Westchester and Long Island.
All right, as you know, if you get name checked by the chair, we go right to you, Dave Colon. You are up from Streets Blog.
Here representing the NBA Cup champion New York Knicks. Really happened. I have a couple questions for you, Jano, about the future. One is, you've been making some appearances lately. You've been talking about the future of Omni on the bus. You're going to be moving, trying to go more towards a proof of payment system on there to make it easier for people to get on the bus. You call it European style fare checks. My understanding is in Europe, when they do the fare checks on there, they do it while the bus is still moving. Here in New York, the bus stops when people are still getting the fare checks from the Eagle teams. Do you expect that the bus will keep moving and riders will still be able to get where they're going when you're doing that?
Yeah, and that's actually the whole kind of operational model is being worked on right now by transit. That issue is being examined by transit. Can they accomplish what they need to accomplish in what kinds of bus environments while the bus is moving, or do they need to stop the bus and take people off? So that's actually being examined by transit right now.
Is there a reason that they couldn't do it like they do it in Europe?
It has. I think. Why don't you give us a couple months to finish that work, and we'll report out. But the main point is, Dave, and I know you understand this, is what we're trying to do is to have a system which you don't need a cop for every interaction. It just becomes a more routine part of riding that somebody may come up to you and show their ID and ask you to validate, whether it's by your phone or by a credit card or by an Omni card, how you paid. So we don't have drama. And we're also increasing, we're also looking at the video that all the buses take that will, may assist us in that process. So.
And then, the ridership recovery this year, obviously, there's been a lot of green shoots, some good news. Overall, though, it's still somewhere for the full year, it's between the worst case scenario and the midpoint scenario that you guys had for the forecast that you made in 2022. So I'm wondering what you think the MTA can do next year to push things more towards the fuller ridership recovery that could happen.
The shortfall that you're talking about is attributable not to ridership but to the growth of fare evasion on buses. That we're you and I are just talking about. So we need to address it. It's something that goes to not just to the MTA's finances, but to the kind of sense of fairness and in sharing of the public space, that we're all playing by the same rules. You need that sense that everybody's going to respect each other and play by the same rules in the public space, or else New York kind of starts to break down. So we're going to be focusing on how to take advantage of the fact that we have adoption of tap and ride to restore the fairness that we all experienced before COVID with respect to fare payment.
All right, next up is Stephanos Chen of the New York Times down in the Hudson River Pavilion over there.
Hey, Jano. Just a quick question again on Omni. With the one other component of the system that won't be Omni, you have Port Authority using TAP instead. Yeah. It's the same vendor through Cubic, and I'm just curious if you'd speak to why that system won't be Omni compatible.
That you have to ask the Port Authority about that. We were moving along, and at some point a couple of years ago, they decided to go their own way with a non-compatible system. If they want to get back on Omni, we'd be happy to accommodate them. But so far, they've elected to go with a non-compatible system.
And just the second one quickly, in terms of the new Fairgate pilot that is launching by end of month, can you give an update on the stations, the rollout, and when we might see some of these in action?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's coming real soon. There are the implementation of the technology and the testing has been ongoing for a couple of weeks in a couple of places. We're all anxious to see the folks, the stations where those entrances have been closed while the technology is being worked through, reopen. That's Bedford Park, it's 138th Street, 3rd Avenue in the Bronx, it's now more recently Broadway Lafayette, it's 4th Avenue entrance, the Atlantic Terminal Complex. All of those are being worked on because we want to make sure that they're operating properly.
And today it looks like I've only seen 2 of the vendors in the system.
Yeah.
Initially there was 4 in the pilot.
Well, one is dropped out entirely. The German vendor Scheiten Bachmann has decided at a rather late date that even though they were chosen as a qualified finalist, that they were unable for whatever reason to go forward. So we're at 3 vendors, but we're enthusiastic about moving forward. Those are the ones who are implementing right now.
All right, moving forward here to the balcony, Elijah Westbrook from CBS New York.
Hey,
Elijah.
Jano. Good afternoon. So my question today pertains to the issues at the bus command center, the so-called issues. As you probably know, the TWU Local 106 is saying that there are critical communications and bus locator system problems that have been taking place over the past few days. What really is going on? And my follow-up to that is, should riders be concerned about their safety on these buses?
The answer to your last question is no, riders should not be concerned about their safety, but I'll yield to Demetrius to answer your question otherwise.
So I think one thing, we rolled out a state-of-the-art new communication system at the bus rail command center, at the bus command center. The command center, we're still working with the contractor on some of the communication between buses and the command center. In the instances where the system, the clever system, is not operable, the bus operator still has communications with the command center. That's, hard stop right there. That communication is still live. They're still able to communicate directly with the command center. This is really about the union taking a position about the 26 dispatchers that are being relocated to perform better communications, to better manage service to the command center. A total of 400 and over 440 total supervisors, 26 at this point are being relocated. And the reality is, it is to provide better service for our customers. You will sit side by side with the person who's managing incidents and the person that is managing the service. That is a win-win for the customer, and we are moving directly in that direction to provide better service for our customers.
And simple, make it simple for viewers. Like, there's technology, there's GPS, and other technologies that enable us to see how buses are moving, and so we are using technology rather than digging in even more deeply into the old-fashioned system of having someone stand on a street corner and try to manage service when they only see one bus at a time. That's the difference, and I respect that union, but what you're hearing from Demetrius is we're using technology to manage bus service, make bus service better, and we're not going to go backwards to the, just relying on people standing on a street corner.
All right, forwards here to Rye Rivard of Politico, who has joined us in person today. Rye, good afternoon.
Thank you. Happy holidays. The World Cup is about 6 months out. Some transit agencies seem to be doing sort of intense preparations. I wonder if you can talk about what the MTA is doing, or if this is just sort of a hiccup for you all. And then relatedly, there are some security concerns with any major event like this. I wonder if you're getting what you need from the Trump administration. I know they withheld some security money unrelated earlier this year, or from FIFA, or from the host committee.
I'm Demetrius. I am not fully cognizant of this, John.
Yeah, Rye, we've been actively engaged with the host committee in preparations for the World Cup coming to New York, and including the federal government, and there's been no hiccups. Our role is making sure people can get around the city, particularly less so getting out to Jersey for the games, but getting around to go to the different events that will pop up. Some official, some unofficial, because there's going to be a lot of people in town for that. But we have, there's been no issues to date, but we're working very closely with all parties.
All right, let's go to Michelle Caskey of Bloomberg News, down there by the river. Michelle.
Are we doing this so long that we now have official seats? Michelle, you've been sitting on the spot for a long time.
I guess I always come in so late that this is the seat that's available. But I don't know. It's a good seat. And I don't know. Jana, as we're approaching, you mentioned it during the meeting, the 1-year anniversary of congestion pricing.
Yeah.
What have you heard from other areas or cities in across the United States? What kind of advice are they seeking from the MTA about this type of program, about congestion pricing? Where are you hearing sort of the most interest from?
I mean, listen, I don't want to overstate this. We've heard interest from both some governmental groups and also, advocacy and stakeholder type organizations from all of the big cities around the country, Boston, Chicago, LA, and so on. We haven't gotten into any specifics. They're just interested in how the program is working, how we set it up mechanically, why we made some of the choices that we did in how the program, the program's rules of the road, for lack of a better term, and how it was achieved and implemented, the politics of it, and how we managed to get it implemented. So those are the questions. We haven't gotten into any specific discussions with anybody. It's more just tell us more about this. We're interested.
What advice do you give to any area or city that really wants to do this?
Yeah, I haven't given advice other than we definitely acknowledge that one of the reasons that New York was very confident doing this is that we have really great mass transit. They had plenty of room on it for the 140,000 people who drive into the CBD as commuters, who represent just an infinitesimal percentage of our available capacity on the mass transit. And so although the question about, was there enough mass transit to accommodate these people was sometimes raised by opponents, it was, ultimately it was nonsense. That was our special advantage, why we were able to successfully lead, is we have great mass transit alternatives. 80+% of people who come to the CBD take mass transit. So it wasn't like, it was less of a transition concept for us than maybe any other place, and we acknowledge that.
Okay.
All right, we're moving to the Zoom equipment now, sir, where Steve Nesson is standing by. He's the purveyor of the On the Way newsletter. Steve.
Hey, Jano. Sorry I couldn't join you today. Quick question. We know the MTA's tried different strategies and campaigns to address subway surfing, but the data shows there have been 5 deaths this year, 6 last year, and 5 the year before. Do you have any comment about the struggles with getting that number to change?
I don't. I mean, these are individual decisions, unfortunate individual decisions by kids to put their lives in danger for a thrill. I'm very proud of what the MTA has done to try to educate everybody about the dangers of subway surfing. It's not a secret to you. You know all this stuff, but we've done huge campaigns within the subway system. We've evolved the campaigns. We're working with kids in in the New York City public school system to shape campaigns that will be more impactful to their peers. We have literally, millions of announcements and impressions, and we've worked with the NYPD, who's instituted, a lot of special operations in the areas where this seems to take place more often. The use of drones, which we support for this purpose strongly, has grown, and I credit the NYPD for allowing them to identify kids who might, who are doing this, who would otherwise, put their lives in danger and save their lives and bring them home. So we've done a ton of stuff that's been really successful. Every day we look at what's going on in social media. Most of the social media companies have gotten the message from us and elected officials that they need to develop the algorithms more aggressively to shut this down before stuff gets up. I'll tell you, one company that I'm not thrilled with, and I've messaged it to them a couple times, is Meta, because Instagram seems to be a place where still more subway surfing videos do get to live for too long. And I have sent that message to them a couple times, most recently this week, that we want them to get on the stick. They've been cooperative in discussions, but they haven't been successful in stamping it out. And I think that I'm shining a light on them, because I think that TikTok and some of the other guys who used to have more of this have been more successful, and they should have the capacity to shut this down. If it were child pornography, they would figure out how to shut it down. So we're calling on Meta, Instagram, to do a little bit better. But we also know that ultimately we only have so much influence. And we really need our partner, the folks who have more influence on kids than we do, which is parents and clergy and teachers and others, to also do everything in their power to discourage this practice. It is unbelievably heartbreaking when the kids make this decision for a momentary thrill, for literally an infinitesimal moment of glory on social media, that can end their lives or leave them permanently disfigured. So we're hoping that some of these other stakeholders and partners in this equation will step up as we go forward.
Thanks.
All right, let's move on to Samantha Liebman from New York One, Charter Communication. She's right there in the front row. Sam.
Happy Hanukkah. So I'm just wondering, the biggest complaint I hear from riders is that with Omni is that they can't see their balance on their card. Cubic said that you guys just haven't asked for that technology, but you guys have said Cubic says they can't do it. So what's the real issue, and why isn't this getting done when that's like the biggest gripe people have?
Jamie, it's not a secret that, C&D took the project over and has done a hell of a lot to successfully drag it over the finish line, so I'll let Jamie answer.
Well, this has been a year of great improvements in the way the Omni system functions. It wasn't done back in 2020 when those validators rolled out. There was an enormous amount of work that Cubic had to do, and the MTA with them, to make sure what we've been able to do this year, get Omni cards out to students, reduced fare, fare, paratransit, creating the business-to-business portal that allows us to do some of those bulk purchases pre-tax. All of that stuff has gotten done on time since we, took a big step back and figured out how we're going to get Cubic over the finish line here. Responding specifically to that question, we understand something that riders want. They can see that when they go online and look at their Omni account. And the thing we have to note is that this program was created back in 2017 when a lot of these features were not even figments of anyone's imagination. So as we go forward, we're looking at how we make those improvements so that we can make that information available to passengers in the stations as well. But for now, go look online, and you can see all your trip history and charge history there.
So you're saying it's a possibility that this will be a technology that will be developed?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Also, do you have an update on the installation of those barriers to prevent subway surfing? Because I haven't yet caught a 7 train that has them.
I mean, I'll just say that they're being piloted in the system, and when we, come to a conclusion about how they're working, there's an opportunity to expand the deployment. They're being piloted right now.
All right, let's move on to a reporter who has come from the East, Alfonso Castillo of Newsday TV. Alfonso.
Hi, Jenna. Happy holidays. Couple of questions about the upcoming fare adjustments. First, if you could clarify, so the fare change coming up initially was expected this year. It got pushed to January. The financial plan you just adopted assumes another fare increase in 2027. So does that mean we're getting a fare adjustment in back-to-back years?
No, we're on the every 2 years model. So this is, late in. Technically, maybe you zinged me, but this is the 2025 fare adjustment that we're implementing right now, and we're following our every 2 year approach. And for folks who drive from Valley Stream to Laurelton and get city ticket at
Rosedale.
the discount, Rosedale.
Closer.
Okay, so I know you're living large. With the city ticket, but no, it's an every 2 year system, and we're sticking by that. Basically 2% a year, well below inflation, and we're sticking with that schedule.
On that point, so in between the various changes coming to Long Island Railroad fares, the introduction of a day pass, the elimination of round trip, the shrinking of validity windows, and on top of that, you've got NASA's Nice Bus finally rolling out Omni in January, and you won't be able to buy a Metro card. So this is all to say, this seems like the biggest change for Long Island public transportation users in how they pay their fares, maybe ever in decades. What would you say to Long Islanders to sort of assure them that it'll all be okay and that these changes are for the better?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the first thing I'd say to Long Island, and maybe the most important thing, is the monthlies are still lower in cost in real terms than they were before COVID. I mean, go to your a diner of your choice and figure out what else is gone down in price since before COVID. Not many things, and even where we're doing the 2% annual fare increases, we are staying well below inflation. So the fare model has been great. The rest of the country, it's your job to remind them, I hope. The rest of the country, mass transit's looking at 20+% fare increases. Just in New Jersey this year, they did, in the past year, they've done a 20% fare increase in effect. So, New York including Long Island is doing really well. MTA customers are doing really well in the fare increase category. Yes, we are adjusting the system in part because we've all very quickly adapted to the tap and ride, the no paperless approach, and we need a new fare collection system that is more consistent with that reality. That's why we're changing how fares are collected a little bit, because as we moved into tap and ride, and we did it very successfully, very quickly. Folks in Long Island love the Train Time app. We found there was a lot of unintentional fare evasion and even some opportunistic fare evasion, and we're adjusting to that.
Next up is Haley Brown.
So everybody, we're adjusting to that so everybody has confidence this is a fair system where everybody's paying their fair share.
I'm sorry, sir. It's Haley Brown of the New York Post.
Yep.
No. Okay. Are you concerned at all that a possible economic downswing could blow a hole in the MTA's budget, given that nearly half of the MTA's operating budget now comes from special taxes tied to the local economy?
We are always, in our projections, conservative about economic projections and prepare for, mid-case, positive scenarios and well as downside scenarios. So I am always concerned about the future of the economy. It affects ridership as well as everything else, but I'm optimistic about the MTA's budget because we plan for every scenario.
All right, Evan Simko-Bednarski is here from the New York Daily News. Evan.
Hey, Jenna. This may be a question more for Mr. Farrell, but I'm wondering, the BX6 that crashed in the Bronx on Monday, bus 1040, what's the maintenance history on that bus?
Somebody else?
Now approaching the microphone, Demetrius Critchlow of New York City Transit.
So, Evan, the entire incident is still currently under investigation. The team is looking at everything, recent inspections, operator's history. It is a joint investigation by the bus team in collaboration with System Safety and the PTSB. So that investigation and the details therein are still under investigation.
Thank you.
All right, let's close out the proceedings today with the editor, Jose Martinez from the city. Jose.
Nice to be here. Thank you. Not to go all Ben Brackfeld on you here, Jano, and drag you into analysis session, but do you find yourself at all sentimental about the last days of the MetroCard, and what will you miss least about the MetroCard?
MetroCards, I answer your question, I got a lot of MetroCards that seem to expire at inopportune times. That personally, you're asking me what I will miss about MetroCards is I always seem to be swiping and then finding out it was expired, and you didn't know how to cash it in. And when people talk about MetroCards in sock drawers, you've heard me say that. Well, that was me. So I won't miss MetroCards expiring, and I won't miss having to send them in or to come to Stone Street, because we now created customer service centers for whatever reason all around the system. What I would say to you, Jose, is I remember the transition from tokens, and it really blew people's minds how, and people were really, it was a difficult transition. Not everybody was comfortable swiping. We now take it for granted. People thought this was really weird, and a lot of people resisted. And it took a long time for people to get comfortable making the transition. London made the transition to tap and ride when there was about 50% adoption. We're making it when we're at 94% adoption. So I'm really thrilled that we are way, way ahead of where the adoption rate was when we moved from token to MetroCard 30 years ago, or 31 years ago. And I'm thrilled that we're ahead of a great system, where a great system like London was. So that gives us a lot of confidence.
All right, thank you, Jano. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Demetrius and John and Jamie. And good afternoon from local Manhattan.